Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening. Continuing our investigation of the Gateless Barrier, Case 17, Guoshi's 3 Calls. Chung Guoshi called his attendant 3 times, and 3 times his attendant responded. Guoshi said, "I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that you are ungrateful to me." Wumenguan's comment says, Guoshi called 3 times and his tongue fell out. His attendant answered 3 times, and his responses were brilliant. Guoshi was old and feeling lonely. He held the cow's head to make it eat grass. The attendant would have none of it. Delicious food does not attract a person who is full. Tell me, at what point was there ingratitude to the other? When the nation is at peace, talented people are esteemed. When the house is prosperous, the children are refined. Wumenguan's verse says, "You must wear an iron kang with no hole. This curse passes to descendants, no trivial matter. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet." 3 bells. So please be at ease and comfortable. Don't feel like you're locked in. You can move around. Well, don't stand up and dance or anything like that. Well, maybe if it's exciting. We'll see. This is a case that I often have to really sit with before I can, before I feel like I'm ready to talk about it. In many ways, it's very simple. So, before I start talking about the case, I just want to acknowledge that after the talk, Genkyo and Jason, who have been here since, Jason's been here since Wednesday, and Genkyo's been here since Thursday, they're co-hermits in the Hermitage, doing a short Zen retreat. Now I say short, but the one thing that's really becoming more and more clear to me is that short doesn't mean insignificant or easy even. When I lay out the schedule for the Zen retreats for the people who are coming out to do them, my perspective is like, it's not going to be an intensive, so we'll have a few hours of sitting every day, and little bit of work and some simple meals. And my thinking is like, oh, that should be easy. But what I'm really starting to realize is it's not the physical demands of sitting or working that are so difficult, but it's more and more becoming the challenge of unplugging from all of our distractions. I ask people to either not bring devices at all, any device, or if they do bring them, I ask them to turn that in. I even say, hey, if you want to read a book, there's a library downstairs, or if you have a Buddhist book, you can bring that, bring some note paper. But what happens when, what you're going to do that day is sort of sorted out on paper, and what you're going to wear that day is sort of determined by the schedule and the environment, and all of the distractions are taken away, and what are you going to do is taken away, is that there's a whole lot of just your own mind, your own stuff. What you're going to eat just magically appears at the door 3 times a day. It's like a Christmas present every day. Oh, what's this? 3 times a day. Oh, what's this? But I realize more and more that that's not easy. And I think that we can all really idealize the retreat and say, oh gosh, that sounds so delightful. But the reality of it is quite different. Being with yourself all day, every day, for several days, with, in many ways, less distraction than sesshin. There's less external stuff going on. There's less physical discomfort. There's less individual sort of rituals and things that you have to worry about or get stressed out. It's very simple. And so sort of all of our distractions and all of our devices and tools that we use to busy our minds up are sort of pulled away from us. And we're just left with zazen, a lot of sitting, and our own minds and hearts. Sometimes that's frightening. I was just talking yesterday in the orientation group about the study that was done, where it turns out that on average people would rather self-administer electric shock to them than sit by themselves with nothing to do. We laugh, but I believe it. So one of the things that really I'm becoming more and more clear on is at the front to really talk about the commitment of practice. In the Tibetan tradition, I know that when people do hermit retreats or solo retreats, there is a symbolic, they tie a knot on the exterior gate, and it's like this cannot be broken during the retreat. And one of the things that I think is going to change is really talking about the commitment. So before a person comes saying, I sort of have loosely said it in the guidelines, this is when you let us know when you're coming and going. But one of the things that I'm going to change is like commit to coming and going at a certain point. Because everybody who's come, we've only had a few people, everybody who's come, either during the course of the retreat or after the retreat has been over, has talked about the impulse to leave. For some people that happens within the first 3 hours. They get everything set up and unpack their bags and everything's settled, and they close the door and they sit on the bunk and go, oh God, what have I got myself into? Maybe if I slip out quietly now, no one will even notice I was here. Or after a couple days, 3 days or 4 days, people are like, suddenly, the house needs to be painted and there's a whole bunch of things I need to get back for. We can come up with all kinds of things. And this principle of commitment being a tool, just being able to say, well, I said that I would stay to here, so I'm going to stay to here. It's a gift. And of course, I'm not going to, shackle anybody to their bedpost or anything like that. But to have the support of being committed is great. So today, I'm really happy that Genkyo and Jason are here, and that they have sat through some trepidation and difficulty, and are here to celebrate with us. Really, this is a great opportunity, and I really appreciate them both staying, because I think that each time we have retreatants, people coming to use the Hermitage, it's a real blessing and something to celebrate for everybody in this community. Because I didn't give the money to build the Hermitage. Everybody in this community did. Everybody put forth the effort to see the project through to create this space for practice. So when people come and engage in practice out there, it's not just completion and joy for the people who have done that, or for me, but for our whole community. We get to see this residential training space in use, and it's inspiring and gratitude-inducing for all of us. So thank you, Genkyo and Jay. Yeah, one of the things that has come up recently from several people lately is, I don't know if it's consciously coming up for them, but in conversations, this idea of meeting our edge, the edge of comfort, the edge of difficulty, and how we respond to that. In our Tuesday practice at UVic, our focus is really on creating an environment that people can come and be exposed to the form, be exposed to the practice, be exposed to the teaching in a way that leaves them with a good taste in their mouth. It's not overly physically taxing. It's not too frightening. We want people to leave the Tuesday evening with kind of a warm and happy feeling. But we also have to recognize that even with those intentions, when a person comes for their first time and they sit for 3 15-minute periods, oftentimes it is taxing. Oftentimes it is stretchy. The form, just all the people in black gis, is kind of stretchy. It's kind of like, whoa, what am I into here? It's a bit odd. And actually, that's kind of where we want our practice to be, where we're sort of okay, safe, balanced, but we're stepping into a little bit of a challenge. On Tuesday evening, very quickly we can get into the place of comfort, where everything is just comfortable. And when we engage in Zazen, in Zen practice, where it's about being comfortable, the value of our practice, or the depth of our practice, or the usefulness even of our practice, I feel like it's really diminished. We talk a lot about how Zen practice is practiced on a knife's edge. And there's lots of phrases in Zen, like even this one here, Wumen's verse, you must wear a tang of iron with no hole. This curse passes to descendants, no trivial matter. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. It's not a comfortable practice. So, whenever we're feeling discomfort, we really have to look at that. Because there's lots of different kinds of discomfort that we can have. We can have physical pain, injurious pain. I think we all know what that feels like, where, twink, something goes and we say, ouch, I must stop now. And that's good. You should listen to that. And when something goes toink and you feel like you should stop immediately. But we also have to pay attention to comfort seeking. This is one of the things that is brought up over and over and over again. And that generally we have sort of these two motivations. One is to move towards things that make us more physically, emotionally, mentally comfortable. One is to move away from things that make us feel uncomfortable. One of the exercises that we do in the fundamentals class here at Zenwest is to explore those things with each of the senses and to practice not immediately running away from things that make us uncomfortable and not run directly towards things when we are looking for something to comfort us. So a couple of concrete examples that come up is one of them was about sitting. When we sit, it's not always best for us to be entirely comfortable all the time. It's not always best for our meditation to be deep and broad and penetrative samadhi. Sometimes when our mind is really busy, when we have a lot of resistance intellectually or emotionally or even physically, this is the best time for us to do zazen. Certainly it's the time where we most want to stop doing zazen. It's the time where we want to get up off the cushion and go, it's not working. I'll come back to this later. But even on an entirely physical level, even if you cut your head off and sit, physically, just the exercise of sitting in this posture is beneficial. The internal component of it is actually, that's where the grist, that's where the juice of practice is. When it's easy to sit, it's easy to sit. When it's easy to deal with people, it's easy to deal with people. You don't get better at dealing with difficult people by dealing with people who are easy to deal with. You don't get better at dealing with difficult thoughts when you only deal with thoughts that are easy to deal with. Our greatest capacity as human beings is this ability to awaken, to develop, to ripen, to deepen in compassion, to deepen in patience, to deepen in wisdom, to deepen in forbearance. In Shantideva's the Way of the Bodhisattva, he talks about this and says, we don't get patient in circumstances where we never have to wait. We don't develop compassion if we never come across somebody else who's suffering. These circumstances have to arise in order for us to actually manifest our greatest human capacities, our capacities as bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So, just like in the Bodhisattva's vow that we recite in the morning, and just like in Shantideva, he talks about one way of looking at these challenges, whether they're physical challenges as we sit, whether they're mental or emotional challenges as we face difficulty in our practice or our life, is to look at them as the physical, mental, emotional manifestations of bodhisattvas that are presenting the opportunity for us to ripen, to awaken, to develop in our lives. It's easy to go, whatever. But if we for a moment can sit back when we face a challenge, we can settle back into our hattas and confront those challenges face on as challenges, our practice becomes much more rich. Much less sort of surface. We can cut below the depths into our own edge. Now there's going to be times, and this is why we have to, Genjo always says you have to be the master of your own practice. You have to develop a fundamental view of an awareness of your own practice. We're always looking for a resting place. We're always looking for I'm in the zone in my practice. As if practice was a stable thing, was a place, the zone of practice. But the reality is that there's so many dynamics in our lives, mental, physical, emotional, life circumstances, relationship, environment, that everything is a moving target. It's like trying to constantly walk back and forth on the deck of a ship at sea. It's like one walk is not the same as the other walk. You have to constantly be using your whole body, all of your awareness, your eyes are up, in order to even take a few steps. And that's how our practice has to be. What works today, what gets us there today, what's a challenge and the edge today is not tomorrow. It's completely easy the next day. Or it's way in the range of overwhelming and I'm going to drown the next day. And our awareness of our practice has to be such that we're able to adjust. We're able to draw back so that we're just in that area of tautness. We're on the edge. Or we need to press forward so that we're not taking a break or letting it become rote or pat or just going through the motions. We have to press in, become alive in our practice. Guoshi called his attendant 3 times, and 3 times his attendant responded. Guoshi said, "I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that you are ungrateful to me." Guoshi is kokushi, like we chant the Daito Kokushi. Kokoshi means national teacher. So Chung, the national teacher. And what does this mean in the context of these old texts? National teacher means that this is a teacher who instructed the emperor. The emperor is the nation. It wasn't that they traveled all over the country. That's a very democratic way of looking at things. No, this is a teacher who was a student of Huineng, the 6th patriarch. Actually was a co-student of Huineng's with Hengzhen. And after Hengzhen died and Huineng became the 6th patriarch, Chung Guoshi went and studied with Huineng and then was transmitted by him. He went into a hermitage in the mountains and had only one companion, his attendant. And it's said that he stayed that way for 20, 30, or 40 years. And eventually he started to develop this real reputation as a teacher. people would come and see him, like the sort of cliche, old man on the mountain, where people would come up and, "Oh, great wise man, tell me, what should I do about my mother-in-law?" And eventually word got to the emperor. Again, please make yourself comfortable. If you need to adjust your legs, go ahead. Eventually word got up to the emperor, and so the emperor would sent word to him and said, "Come to the imperial palace, I'd like to talk to you." And Guoshi would send reply and say, "No, I'm doing a retreat right now, I can't come." So eventually, after three or four of these requests from the emperor, he finally acquiesced and said, "Okay, I'll go." But his attendant said, "You're on your own, buddy." And so off he went. And that was the last time that they saw each other. I actually imagine this interaction happening very close to the part of the point of his departure. So Guoshi called his attendant 3 times. So if we can imagine this, the abbot, the teacher in his chamber, and the attendant sweeping the paths or working in the garden or making tea, this is a mountain hermitage, so there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done if you want to continue to stay alive. And the teacher says, "Attendant!" And the attendant comes in and says, "Yes?" And the abbot says, "I forgot, never mind." So the attendant goes away. And a few minutes later, the teacher says, "Attendant!" And the attendant comes in and says, "Yes?" And the teacher says, "Oh, it's okay, never mind." A few more minutes pass, and the teacher says, "Attendant!" And the attendant comes in and says, "Yes?" And the teacher says, "Oh, never mind." Try this with your partner. Or with your kids. Or maybe with a waiter in a restaurant. Or it sounds like a Monty Python skit or something like that. After the third call, Guoshi says, "I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that you are ungrateful to me." So this interaction is obviously there's something going on. There's a story about Yunmen who said that every day he called his attendant in for 18 years. And every day the attendant would come in and Yunmen would say, "What is it?" The point of this practice, or the point of this case, is that each call is a request for the attendant to turn up. And each of us every day has innumerable calls for our attention, innumerable calls to us to turn up in our lives. We're asked to respond. Our children ask us to respond, and our work asks us to respond, and when we drive, every minute along the way, we're being asked to turn up. There's lots of ways that we can turn up. We can turn up bright and open and clear. Yes, yes, what is it? How can I help? Or we can turn up pissy because we were just doing something and we'd rather be doing that than answering this, but maybe we feel like we should, and we show up and go, what? Or maybe we turn up like there's some kind of house on fire, and we have a presumption or an assumption or a projection that we throw into it, or like, what? What is it? What do I need to do? It's all kinds of different ways. Or maybe we drag our feet in and go, yeah. More so, if that call keeps coming, maybe the first time we're able to say, yes. The second time, again, I've got to put down what I'm doing and go in. Third time, what? So this interaction then between Guoshi and his attendant suddenly takes on a different meaning. When Guoshi calls, it's very simply stated. It says, Guoshi called his attendant 3 times, and 3 times his attendant responded. Each time, we don't know how long the gap is in between, but each time the attendant came in and said, yes. Each time the attendant was able to arrive, to turn up wholeheartedly, openly. Guoshi is a teacher who's kind of thrown the bait out 3 times. Come on, let's see if we can get him to bite. It's like maybe just as soon he's looking out the window, I can just see Guoshi looking out the window, and the attendant sort of looking at what he's doing and starts to get into it, and Guoshi's watching, going, oh, he's really engaged in that right now. Attendant, just and each time the attendant puts his stuff down, comes in and says, how can I help? So after the 3rd time, Guoshi says, I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you. I was about to admit that I've been having you on, that I've been being kind of mean and poking you. But it turns out, the fact is that you're being ungrateful to me. You're not giving your old teacher what I need as a teacher. You're not giving me anyone to teach. So this is a great example of a Zen using these kinds of terms like ungrateful, which we take as being like a bad, like, oh, how ungrateful you are. Now, to turn it around as well, we have to also look at Guoshi's requests. He's being skillful as well in calling the attendant. He's not just randomly shooting them out. He's being very skillful in pushing that student, trying that student, testing that student to bring out, just as I was talking about before, these characteristics. He's not being abusive. He's not being condescending or humiliating. But he isn't letting the student get too comfortable. He's calling him out. Can you do it? Can you do it? Can you do it? And each time, like, this is why I'm saying this likely happened just before Guoshi left. And maybe this very interaction is the reason why Guoshi left. Because he felt, okay, I was about to say that I'm ungrateful to you. But you're ungrateful to me. You're giving me nothing to teach. And when Guoshi says something like that, we have to look at it as kind of an approval, an admission. I've been trying to get you, I've been trying to catch you, and you keep catching me. You're no good. Guoshi called 3 times and his tongue fell out. His attendant answered 3 times and his responses were brilliant. Guoshi was old and feeling lonely. He held the cow's head to make it eat grass. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, where Guoshi is kind of laying it out in front of him, laying out again and again this opportunity to be challenged, to be pressed, to be made uncomfortable, and to develop in responding. But the attendant would have none of it. He's not falling for it anymore. I can only imagine what it must have been like living with this guy for years and years. Delicious food does not attract a person who is full. You can offer me that dinner 10 times, and it might be great. It looks great. I'm not hungry. Tell me, what was the point? At what point was there ingratitude to the other? Wumen is always asking us to refine our understanding, always asking us to really look into this interaction. Where did it take place? Was it after the first call? Was the attendant ungrateful? Was it after the second call? I think this must be from the Tao Te Ching. When the nation is at peace, talented people are esteemed. When the house is prosperous, the children are refined. This is Wumen talking about the training environment and its product, the teacher and the student, that these two things, these two mutually dependent circumstances, the teacher and student, particularly as manifested in this sort of hermit and attendant relationship, really defines or really gives a great example of the mutual dependency that we all share in practice. In this environment, the teacher is often getting older. And so simple things, keeping a fire going, cooking food, thatching the roof, all that kind of stuff, they can't do it anymore. Well, not safely, or the young person, the attendant, has all of that stuff, has the capacity to do all of those things. But what they lack is the experience, the practice, and the wisdom of the teacher. And so there's this mutual exchange, this call and response. And both of those things have to be functioning for there to be any juice in it. And when that happens, when we each, whether it's in our practice or whether it's in our marriage or whether it's in our parenting, when that call and response is happening, both ways, the teacher says, attendant, can you make it a little warmer in here? My old bones are cold. Okay. Teacher, can you explain this principle to me? When that happens, mutual giving, mutual sharing, mutual receiving, then we really have something magical, wonderful, beautiful. Wumen's verse. This is what I was talking about before as well. When I was speaking about being on the edge, nowadays there are a lot of practices being taught. I have to be careful about this because I don't think, I think that our culture, marketing and sales, gets a hold of a lot of different teachings and essentially corrupts it to its own purposes. Whether that's Buddhism or whether that's Christianity or whether that's yoga or whether that's Stoic philosophy, all of it, I think that essentially the essence of practice is the essence of practice. In order to make money, we hold the ultimate carrot. The society and the person who wants to sell you something is always holding the ultimate carrot, which is our own innate desire to find the comfortable, permanent resting place. And I'll tell you that if you practice yoga, you can arrive at this place where your body will be young until you're very old, and you'll be comfortable when you sit, and your blood pressure will go down, and you will be in the comfortable place. And you can pursue that. Sooner or later, you'll find some discomfort. And if I tell you mindfulness, I can say, well, at work when you get really stressed out, if you do your mindfulness meditation, you'll find the place where your stress dissolves, you're more focused on your work, you'll get your jobs done on time, and your boss will say you're a good person, and you'll get paid better, and you'll be in that Elysium field of happiness. I'll pay my thing. But the truth is, we've all participated in something like that to one degree or another at some point. So where is our Elysium field? Where is our comfortable resting place? Do we have it? You don't! You wouldn't be sitting here on a Sunday morning looking at the floor if you did. This living stuff, finding our release, liberation from suffering, it's not easy work. And even more, to share this with other people, to practice with other people, it comes at a cost. There's a benefit when we practice with other people, when we share with other people. This magic happens, this magic that I was just talking about, where we have a give and a take, a call and a response. It happens innumerable times in our lives when we make these relationships, when we commit to this practice, when we commit to our partner, our family, our work in this way of mutual responsibility. But it's not one-sided. You don't get it free. It doesn't come just like, oh, here, all for you, baby. You don't need to give anything back. So Wumen says, you must wear an iron kang with no hole. A kang is like in China, if they didn't lock you up in a prison, they would put you in this like yoke, an iron yoke. So it was both heavy and kind of like you're stuck in it. But this is an iron kang with no hole. So this is a Zen kang. Oh! It shackles you in the sense that as we awaken, and as we develop awareness to the cause and effect and our own impact and our own responsibility in this life and in our relationships, the number of self-serving, comfort-seeking, discomfort-avoiding things that we can do becomes fewer and fewer, because we start to see, oh shit, that affects so-and-so, and oh, that will lead to this, and oh. So we start to really go, wow, life. This curse passes to descendants. This is talking about descendants of the Dharma family. So if you're, and I talk about this when I'm talking to people on Tuesday nights often, where I say, if you're getting into this meditation thing, you really need to realize that it's not just this pleasure, fun, I feel so much calmer thing. Eventually you're going to hit the wall of yourself, and you're going to hit the wall of your life in this world and your responsibility and your part in the universe. So run now if you're going to run. It's no trivial matter. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, and again, I don't think this is limited to Zen, although this particular text is talking about the gate and the house of Zen, the sort of the gateless gate and the house of Zen. I think that it's like if you want to uphold any teaching, if you're a Christian and you're practicing the Christian teaching and you want to uphold the gate and the house of Jesus, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet, or you must mount the crucifix. Oh, gosh, I can't believe I'm using all this Christian. But anyways, the point is that this is not, you don't get out of this free. You don't we have to be in this with each other, for each other, because in the end there is no other. And this goes back to what we're also talking about in the first part of the case, in gratitude, or in being grateful. When somebody that you think is strange to you, a stranger on the street, comes up and gives you something, oh, thank you. We acknowledge this separation and we say, that's something that you have that you're giving to me, and I'm grateful, because there's this hard stop between us. When we are raising our children, and we feed our children, we take our children to school, we enroll our kids in classes, we dress our kids for years and years and years, we make them comfortable beds and nice places to sleep, and we don't wait for thank you to do that, because that separation between us and our children, or us and our partner, it's not so much there. When we grow up as kids, and when we look to our parents and go, ah, and our parents give us stuff, we don't say, oh, I'm so grateful. It's understood. There's no separation. Of course. As we continue to grow up, we move out on our own, we start our own families, that distance starts to increase. And sometimes we're able to look at our parents and go, oh, I never even said thank you. We realize this space. We realize that there's been something there, but we didn't see it because we didn't have the space. So when we have Guoshi and his attendant, when we talk about, I was about to say that I was ungrateful to you, but the fact is that it is you who are ungrateful to me. Another way that we can understand this is that the intimacy between them has developed so vast that it's not just one side being ungrateful or unthankful, or the other side being ungrateful or unthankful, but that the space, the sort of subconscious, unconscious affirmation of distinct I am self has dissolved to the place where gratitude actually has no space. One calls, the other answers. There's not a question about like, oh, Jesus, I'm in the middle of something. One calls, the other answers. Again the call comes, again the answer comes. Again the call comes, again the answer comes. One hand being on fire, the other hand doesn't say, maybe I should put it out, maybe I shouldn't. Out. This is my own hand. There's only one body. So, applying this in our own practice, each of us, as I said at the beginning, is called forth every day, innumerable times every day. Using your practice, using the awareness that you develop through Zazen, pay attention. Pay attention to your responses. Pay attention to when you're called, how do you respond? Sometimes are you able to say, yes, how can I help? Arriving fully and clearly and openly ready to respond. Pay attention when you say, what? Pay attention when you hear the call and look the other way. In the end, the call and the response are nothing other than your own nature. When we turn away, when we are holding firm, when we avoid and resist, we're avoiding and resisting that life, that lively, open, compassionate, loving, unifying response. So pay attention to when we're being called forth in this life. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.